What's poppin', y'all? We back with the Squid Games Aftermath Podcast, Episode 3, with me, your humble host, DeAndre, Player 288, and I have my guest, Tyler Austin, Player 264. Tyler, what's poppin'? What's going on?
What's up? Thank you for having me, DeAndre. Good to see you.
Wonderful, wonderful. How was your Thanksgiving?
It was great. I'm actually Canadian, so our Thanksgiving's in October. So I kind of just met up with another Canadian friend in LA and we saw a movie.
Okay. What movie?
Saltburn. You know it?
Saltburn. I don't.
No, it was pretty good. It was like a thriller, psychological, family drama. It's a good movie.
Okay, well, check out Saltburn, y'all. Getting the endorsement from Tyler himself. All right, so Tyler, before we get into episode 3, can you tell the viewers a little bit about where you're from and who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm Tyler Austin. I'm marketing manager from Toronto, currently living in Los Angeles, and I love games. I love reality shows. I love games. I love Survivor, and I loved Squid Games. And when I was watching Squid Game, I was like, I have to play these games. I have to be part of this. And so the day that I saw the announcement that they were making a reality show version, I applied. I applied the very next day. And I just knew, like, this is the kind of experience I want, to be immersed with hundreds of people, challenging ourselves and seeing, like, what do you do under pressure?
Oh, definitely. What kind of intrigued you, I guess? What's the most intriguing thing about like Squid Games that kind of caught your eye watching the show rather than compared to some other shows?
I think what's unique about Squid Game is how the challenges or the games, they all had this like face value of like, okay, this is tug of war, but there was always this underlying trick or strategy to each of the games that took it beyond its face value. And so in the show, in tug of war, it's, maybe there's a strategy of letting go of the rope, or in Dalgona, even if you have a tough shape, maybe you lick it and it helps you out. And I loved that it wasn't just as straightforward as it seems, right? It's this idea of this like veil of a children's game, but beyond it, there was so much more to every game. And that was exciting to me because I'm not the strongest person, but I can use my intellect to help me, get by.
Okay, intellect is his special ability. He's trying to use his brains over bronze right here.
Yeah, my lowest grade in school was always gym, so it's nothing new.
Okay. So he wasn't looking forward to tug of war, to say the least.
No. I was panicking.
Okay. Well, we'll see how Tyler fares in episode 3. So, recap, Tyler has made it through red light, green light. Congratulations. He's made it through Dalgona. Congratulations. What shape did you get in Dalgona?
Triangle gang.
Triangle gang. Oh, you was in the triangle line with 432. Nah, he did y'all a service and hooked y'all up. So definitely, that was excellent for you.
I was very grateful to have 432 in my line that day. And there's a shot of me in the show going up and thanking him for picking the shape. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that was it. I was very happy. Let's just say that.
Excellent. And last thing before we dive in, how was doing the triangle? Like, do you think it was as hard as you thought it would be, or was it kind of like, oh, this isn't too bad?
It wasn't too bad. I mean, I remember my hand shaking a lot because like there's this pressure of you have 10 minutes to cut out this shape. And honestly, if you put just a little bit too much pressure on those Dalgonas, they will crack. And that's it. It's over in a second. And so I was pretty nervous because prior to the show, I had tried making them at home and practicing, and it was nearly impossible to do. I mean, these cookies were so fragile that when my sister and I made them, they were breaking before I even like just taking it out of the pan off the stove, they were breaking. And so I was really nervous going into it. But once I was on the set, right in the game hall and got my triangle, I realized, wait, I can do this. Like this cookie's thick enough that it's not going to break too easily. And I just took it step by step, used a lot of spit and licked that cookie a lot. And thankfully each side kind of popped out one by one and I made it through. And
did you keep it in the pan? Sorry, did you keep it in the pan when you were doing it, or you took it out?
I took it out to lick it, but then all the cutting was like in the pan, because if you used your palm or something, you have an uneven surface and you could easily crack it. So I definitely wanted to use the pan.
Okay, he
I think
had
it
the
was crazy, like
strategy.
always strategy. I think like Dalgona was really fun to do. It was a lot easier than red light, green light, that's for sure. I think that was probably the hardest part. The hardest game was the first game, just knowing how long it lasted. You know, you've seen in the press, the producers of the show have said it lasted, 7 hours. And truly the hardest thing I've ever done in my life was red light, green light, and the mental toughness it took to make it through. But I know we're not here to talk about that game. So I feel like
It's
let's
okay.
talk about it.
All right, well, we're getting to episode 3. All right, so we start out with the cliffhanger 198 picking up the phone for the second time, and now they tell him on the phone he must convince another player to pick up the phone or he will be eliminated. So 198 has 2 minutes to do this. So when he does this and you're in there, what's kind of going through your mind after he picks it up the second time?
I was loving that he picked it up a second time, because I was like, this guy, there is going to be some form of karma here, because that phone was giving, like it was giving rewards. And what you don't see on the show is that there was 2 other times that the phone rang and other people picked it up. One time it gave a pizza party, and the other time it gave donuts. And so when 198 picks it up a second time, I'm thinking, okay, this phone is giving, it's giving, it's giving, and I think it's going to take, because this is Squid Game. If you don't get a free lunch. So it was really exciting to watch what is about to happen here.
Okay, so that's very intriguing that they didn't show the other times. Were you kind of surprised?
No, I mean, they got to edit it for time, so I wasn't too surprised, but I think there was more. I don't know. I'm not surprised. There's just so much stuff that happened in there that who knows what they're going to show. But I was surprised he picked it up a second time. That's what surprised me most, because that's a big, big risk in this game to say, okay, you got your hamburger once, but now you're going to pick it up again. Like, I don't know if this is going to be good.
Yeah, no, definitely. It was a man was willing to risk it all for the phone. So
you got to risk it for the biscuit.
You got to risk it for the biscuit. And he was already kind of a little controversial player going into this, so people knew who he was per se. And so he picks up the phone a second time, and they tell him the rules and whatnot. He goes around people saying, "Do you want food? Do you want food?" And this would have helped if they showed the other people picking up the phone, like you just said, because it's like, oh, like of course, like they might give me food, but nobody's budging, nobody's jumping for this, because you can see on his face that something wrong has happened. Like you can just see it on his face through the TV screen. And then
he really had like a visceral reaction when they say that to him. His like mouth opens and he's like just shocked. And so I think his reaction just like took over, and he didn't even have a chance to put on a poker face. And I think that lost it for him right there.
Oh yeah, he's like, as a viewer, it's like, oh, well, look at him. So then 432 says there's no chance he picks up the phone, and then, number 198 keeps offering food to people. He keeps saying, oh, there's food, there's food. He keeps running around all over the place. Then he goes up to number 2. He's like, oh, you want it? And 2 is like, nah, I'm not doing it. Then he goes up to 176 and it's like, do you want it? And he's like, yeah, I'll go get it. So 176 goes all the way up to the phone booth, and he almost grabs it. He's this close to taking it. And then 432 convinces him, nah, don't do it, don't do it. You gonna believe him? You gonna believe him? Did you think 176 is gonna pick up the phone?
I definitely think he was going to pick up the phone. I remember there was so much shouting, don't do it, don't pick it up. And I think in that moment he realized, wait, this isn't a good idea. I should not pick this up.
Yep. And then 188 goes up there and almost picks it up as well. And then, and then essentially the time runs out. He can't figure out anyone else to convince to pick up the phone. Then, snap of the fingers, Thanos comes and wishes him away. Eliminated. 198 is gone. What is your reaction to him leaving?
I think that moment in the dorm, people were so happy, because I hadn't personally seen 198 be villainous in any way, and I have to judge based on what I've seen with my own eyes. But many people were saying that they wanted 198 out because he had been saying negative things to people, kind of bullying people, being prejudiced. And so in that moment, it definitely felt like karma of not only did you pick up the phone twice, which is a bit greedy, but people did not want you in that game, and you got what was coming for you.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I've had my interactions with him as well, and it wasn't the best ones. I mean, he was being very aggressive and, saying crazy things. I
What
don't
was
know.
he saying?
Well, one day I was in the bathroom and we were talking about the Queen of England, and he's like, I don't care about the Queen, blah blah blah, and I was like, no, we were talking about the Queen of England and the President of the United States at the time, and I was, we're just talking, and then he's like, you Americans, he was saying like Americans are all stupid, yada yada yada, and I was like, okay, well, you're not any better. And then he's like, how dare you say that about, because I think he was from England. I think he was British. I cannot 100% remember where he's from, but anywho, he just kept running his mouth about like political things and then this and then that and then coming at people. And I was just joking, like, I don't care. But it was in the shower too. We were showering. Like, bro, like, I don't care. And it was just a lot of little things back and forth. And I could tell he was serious and he was getting defensive. I was like, bro, like, I don't care and I don't have time for this. So just that's my one instance particular with talking to him. But yeah, he was a trip. But anywho, I wish him well. Hope he's, thriving in whatever he's doing. It was in the game. That's it.
DeAndre, can we talk about, the game, right? He was told, if you can get someone else to pick up this phone, like, you won't be eliminated. But what do you think what's the strategy here? And would the next person who picked it up be told the same thing? Like, what do you think would have happened?
I think the next person would have been told the same thing. You have 2 minutes. I don't think they would have picked it up and you're eliminated. That could have happened. I think one of those two things would have happened. They would have said, oh, you're eliminated, speak to the phone. Or they would have said, you need 2 more minutes to convince somebody else. And then it would have been like a round robin scenario.
Yeah. I was thinking about what I would have done if I was in that situation. And honestly, like, you don't have enough time to, on the spot, come up with a good strategy, at least in that moment when you're hungry and tired. I think it's really difficult. Something I was thinking about is, because the phone had been giving so much food that day, I think what he could have done is continued this idea of like the chocolate muffin, right? Like, I think what you could have said is like, they're offering me a chocolate muffin, but if someone else picks up the phone, they said it's going to be like a slice of chocolate cake, and almost create this idea that it's broken. It's like a game of telephone in that the rewards, these treats, are getting bigger and bigger with every additional person who picks up the phone. And are you going to believe what I'm saying? Or do you think I'm full of shit? But you could have created this really interesting dynamic where the second person goes and it's like, okay, it's chocolate cake, but if someone else picks it up, it's like an entire chocolate milkshake with ice cream. Like, I think it could have been really interesting to see how do you play that game if it continued on.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think if he would have got someone else to take it, he would have told everyone, don't pick up the phone. He would have ratted that person out, and they're stuck with it, and there's no way that he would have done it. The only other way I could have seen it working out for him is if he honestly told one of his friends to come get the phone, because they would have trusted him, and they would have picked up the phone, and that sucks. That would have been for great TV, though, but that would have sucked. Like, if my friend told me to come, I'm like, all right, that's my friend,
Yeah.
Whew. That would have been hard.
That phone is iconic, I gotta say.
It was. It was a nice one. Yeah.
Yeah. I hope to see that phone back in season 2. Maybe season 2 of the actual Squid Game. I love to see that phone show up, because that phone was a great character. That phone itself,
it was a nice touch. It was a nice touch. I wasn't mad at it.
Yeah. So, Netflix, I don't know if you saw, but Netflix on Instagram today, and probably TikTok too, posted, they put that phone, the black phone, in Central Park, and they had people from the public pick it up, and they gave them tasks to do, and they have like Meta World Peace there, and they like, you have to play basketball against Meta World Peace, and like all these different things, just to strangers in New York. It's kind of cool.
Wow. I mean, I live in New York, so I would have been cool. I should have went to the Central Park. I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, maybe one day you'll be walking and you just see the black phone. Will you pick it up? We'll never know.
Might have to head there. Nah, I ain't picking it up unless they let me back in the game. All right, so we have 118 players left. So then we get a pan of Steven and Rick having a conversation. They start bonding, and they introduce Rick officially. He's a physician from Armstrong County, Pennsylvania. He says he does everything in a big way, nothing in a small way. He's a beekeeper. He thinks about his bees, and he wonders if his bees think about him. Then we get a pan of 033, Figgy. She talks to 301 Trey about what's happening next. What's the next game? What's the next thing we're doing? And they introduce Figgy. Figgy, number 33, is a teacher from Nashville, Tennessee. She wants to be safe base and a calming mood and setting for people to come to. Very sweet woman. Love her.
Yeah,
she's
as a
excellent.
Survivor fan, personally, I saw Figgy on day 2 when we were in the dorms. I remember being in the bathroom. It was like a communal all-gender bathroom with like a big sink area. And I remember she was there and I saw her and I was like, Figgy? And she was like, yeah, it's me. And I was like, hey, I'm a Survivor fan. And I remember in that moment thinking like, oh shit, I don't know if she wants to keep it a secret that she was on Survivor. And I learned eventually, because I went and apologized to her later. She was like, oh, no, it's not a secret. Like, it was so long ago, I don't mind. But it was cool to see like a familiar face in there with Figgy. And it was fun to kind of strategize and talk to her. Fun fact, for those who are not a Survivor fan, Figgy was on season 33 of Survivor. And while they tell us that the numbers we got were not random, I think Figgy getting 33 as her number in Squid Game was very intentional and very poetic.
Yeah, I heard about that. That was crazy. I mean, I didn't at the time not watch her. This is actually my first season watching it this year. And yeah, it was. I didn't know who she was. But I met her. She's wonderful, and since you knew so much about her, kind of, I feel like you feel like maybe you have a slight, not advantage, but just you're getting a better sense of who people are and what's going on in the game. So. Yeah. Not that it had any advantage or not, but that's I mean, excellent. So
sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, what you said about Dr. Rick as well, like Dr. Rick getting introed in episode 3. What an awesome guy. I mean, I think America's heart is melting when they hear him talk about his bees and whether the bees are thinking about him. Like, Dr. Rick is just such a sweet man. And I think he really made the show that much better for everyone, people watching, but also being in the dorm, because he was so kind. And during Red Light, Green Light and Dalgona, Dr. Rick was going around and giving people tips. Like he really just wanted to enjoy the experience and help other people in there. And that really stood out to me as a beautiful characteristic about his personality. He's a special guy.
No, top tier human being. He's going to be on the podcast, y'all. So stay tuned.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, so he's going to be on there as well as Steven. So it's going to be lit with them, and you'll get to hear a little bit more about his process through everything. So then we get another pan. Everyone's talking about the next game. They're thinking it's tug of war, and everyone's like, "Oh, we want Big Chad. We want Big Chad." 286. Then the lights go out. Everyone goes to sleep. Everyone thinks tug of war is coming. Then we get a pan next morning. Trey, he says he's scared of all the big guys in tug of war. 432 says its best attribute is being strong. So he's ready for tug of war. Tug of war this, tug of war that. Tug of war's on the wall in the room. Like, everyone thinks it's coming. I don't know why you wouldn't. So then the guards come out and say the third game will be beginning soon. Players leave and head towards the next game. 301 says it's going to be a bloodbath and random luck if people stay in. 432 says perfect a million times when walking into the room. He's like, perfect. Because he sees when you walk in the room, you see the lines 1 through 8, and you got to pick a line. So it's like, oh yeah, it's tug of war time. So when you walk in the white room, it's tug of war. You pretty much thinking it's tug of war too?
Yeah, I walk in that white room and it's identical to what it was on the show. I mean, not just were there 8 lines, but you also had the 2 guards with the kind of containers where they could reach in and pull out like a bingo ball of like, this is the team competing against this team. And so seeing that, I was like, oh shit, this is tug of war. And like I said, gym was my lowest grade in school. So I am not feeling good at this point.
Oh gosh, nobody's picking Tyler for their tug of war squad. Jesus. So when we get in there, so you can provide some back content to this. So when we get in there, what they show is they say players must divide them 8 equal lines in 5 minutes. And then they say, all right, get to work. So so go ahead and provide some context to this, because it kind of, watching it and knowing, like, being a part of it, there was some things missing.
Yeah, I think what you see is largely accurate for the most part, but condensed. There was a lot of people who had been prepping for this moment, since day one of like, I'm forming an alliance for tug of war. Because if you think about Squid Game and the TV show, the drama, tug of war really is that team-based game where you needed an alliance. And so I think when you see like the bros being in an alliance, they're doing that, yeah, because they want to be friends and hang out, but also because they're thinking ahead to how can this be useful in the game, specifically waiting for tug of war to come. And so when that 5-minute timer starts going off, you immediately see people like, for example, Gungbu Gang or like Brighton 432, like forming their teams that they have been waiting for this moment and locking in of like, this is our team and we are sticking together because we're going to be good here.
Oh, definitely. Did you think there was going to be a penalty if you did not get in line fast enough?
We didn't know, but basically you knew after seeing, yourself get eliminated for not having chosen a shape, we knew that anything was possible if you did not follow the rules. And so what happens is the 5-minute timer runs out and the announcer comes on the speaker and says that the lines are not equal and we have 5 minutes to do it again and make sure the lines are equal. Now, at this point, I'm looking around and realize that the line that I'm in is one of the 2 lines that was not equal. I think we were short by 2 people in our line. And then there was another line that had 2, or maybe 2 other lines that each had 1 too many people. And so something had to change. And the 5-minute timer is on. And this is where people start screaming and yelling. And this is where you see someone in the show say like, just get out of the line, like leave the line. And it was chaotic in there. And I'm kind of just sitting there being like, am I dead right now? Like, how can I convince someone to join our line? Because like, we were not the biggest, strongest people. Honestly, it was kind of a smorgasbord of people going into this big white room. I actually like didn't even like try to find my closest allies, which were James and Daryl. I did that because I was too scared of like getting eliminated with my friends that I just wanted to break up and like split up from them so that the chances of someone making it through were higher, because we weren't the strongest people physically. So being with them, I think, wasn't to my advantage. So I kind of just joined a random line that I saw, I saw Mikey in it and I saw Dash in it. And I was like, I know these people, I'll stick with them. And so I kind of was like zoning out in this moment, being like, whatever happens, happens. But I just hope and I pray that at the end of the second 5 minutes, we don't get eliminated. And what ends up happening is that this guy, Scott, and then was it Dash? There was Scott and somebody else, maybe Honor, joined the line at the end. I'm sorry, I'm probably getting it wrong who did it, but 2 people jumped at the very last second to the end of our line and they were even and we were safe.
Nice. Okay. Coming through in the clutch. It was getting stressful in there, The hot sauce was kicking in some people's chicken. So we get everyone doing that. He explained it very well. Steven and Rick, they show a little pan of them getting the same line. 432 said his line is chilling. 182, TJ helps everyone get in line as they show. There's a lot of panic. Everyone's able to get in a line. And then 422 kind of gets annoyed for 5-3 crying. TJ consoles her, and then we get introduced to TJ. He's a basketball coach from El Paso, Texas. He says you need to be morally rich first, then financially rich. Wonderful saying. I love that. Then the guards, then everyone's in their line. So now the guards, they get up to the little box and they randomly draw balls out of the box and they have the numbers up. And then the
Why
first
do you
one,
laugh? Why you laugh when you say random?
I just joke. I'm always like, oh, well, of course it was random, because I don't think, this is just my point of view. I know I watch these shows. I watch Big Brother and I watch The Challenge and some other shows. And I know they wouldn't want like Rick's team playing Brighton's team. Like, I just feel like I'm sure it was random to a sense, but they wouldn't want certain teams matched up with certain teams for certain players on them. In my opinion, I could be wrong. That's just a theory of mine. That's not accurate whatsoever. That's just how my brain works. But
Yeah, yeah.
I don't
I
know,
do
you
think
know?
I really do. I do think it was random. But yeah, you do never know. I think, you know, if it was Rick versus Brighton, you have a really exciting battle on television that could be that very high emotional stakes. But you never know. You never know.
You never know. You never know. Well, the first teams we get is Team 3 versus Team 1. What team were you?
Is this bad that I don't remember? I think I was 4. I don't remember. I told you I was zoning out. I'm just joining a line at this point. I was like, no, I'm just picking one. Who will take me?
Okay. Okay. Well, we got you. Don't worry. I got you in here. Don't worry. I got you in my notes. So we get Team 3 versus Team 1. Brighton is in Team 3. 432 says his line is way better than line 1. Brad on the other team, who will get introduced later, says the other team has an upper hand and advantage. Everyone walked into the third game and is shocked because it's not tug of war. It is warships. So before I get into those teams battling, when you first walked in there and you saw this setup, what was kind of going through your mind?
Yeah, let me rewind a bit because I had a hunch that we weren't playing tug of war. And it was a hunch, but it was like 0.1% hunch. I was like 99%, like 99.9 it's tug of war. But here's why I thought it might not be. When you're playing a show like this, actually any reality competition show, there's always a section where off camera, they're telling you the rules. They're telling you how the game's gonna work. And it's about the details of the game, like what you can and can't do and how you get eliminated or how you win. And, you know, up until this point, the rules had always been shared as a group, you know, 100, 200 people in the room. And, you know, one of the producers, the game's producer, is sharing the rules. We did that for red light, green light. We did that for Dalgona. But for game number 3, they didn't tell us the rules. We had to get in line. They pulled the numbers, and we still didn't know what game we were playing until we walked in that room. And the reason I thought it might not be tug of war is because if you think about efficiency, and this is where my production brain goes on, it's far more efficient to tell 118 people the rules together so that you only have to do it once. But they decided to tell us the rules in these groups of 2, right? When we went into the arena. And I think what they were thinking was, we're going to shock people. It's going to be something other than what they expect. It's not tug of war. It's a new game. And so if they had told us off camera, you know, or explained it in that room together, they get a reaction once. But rather the way they did it, you get a reaction 4 times or 8 times with every single team who's walking into that arena. And so I sensed that something was off because it was incongruent with how the rules had been explained for all the previous games. And as I'm sitting in my line, this is giving me hope because I'm like, guys, it actually might not be tug of war. Like Mimi, who was sitting in front of me, like she was sitting there really distressed. And you could kind of see it in the background when Brighton's talking. And I'm smiling. I'm being like, but what if it is not? What if it's not tug of war? And that's just like the optimist in me because I'm always smiling and I'm always like looking at the glass half full. I was like, I might actually have a shot at this.
Okay. His brain is working. That brain is braining. Okay, I like that. I like that. So Tyler's instincts his brain blast is hitting him. So we walk to the third game and find out it's not tug of war. It's this game called Warships, and essentially it's Battleship. Interesting they didn't call it Battleship, but hey, I guess copyright infringement.
It must be copyright. That
Yeah.
moment though, DeAndre, walking into that arena and seeing that it is not tug of war, I don't even think it registered what we were looking at. Our team exploded with cheering. Like we were screaming, we were jumping up and down because we had felt like we were walking to our own funeral. And then we walk into that room and we're like, holy shit, there is hope here because this is not a game of strength.
Yeah, no, I would be elated if, you know, I mean, I'm a strong guy, so whatever. But yeah, I mean, if you feel like you're the underdog team going in there, you're just like a new life and new hope has been breathed into you. And you're just like, oh my gosh, thank Lord Jesus. It's on and popping now.
That's exactly right.
It's on and popping. So first team we get is
Brighton, though. I think you feel
oh gosh,
right?
You just feel
like DeAndre walking in there because you're a physical threat.
Yeah, no, I'd be happy. I walking in there with me, I'll be like, oh my god, like, come on, coach, what's going on? What we playing here? Come on now, is this Squid Games? What game is it? Squid Games. I don't even think they sell Battleship in Korea. No, I'm just playing. But anyways, we get team 1 and team 3 playing. Brad 337 is super happy. It takes brains and not brawn. 337 is named captain. Then 220, Jesse, who was sadly supposed to be here, she was named captain as well. On the other team. Then she picks 452 as a captain, and Brad picks 178 as captains. To win, they say, and this is the rules: to win the game, the captain must fire missiles at the other team. Players are only eliminated when their entire ship is sunk. So if you got a boat of 5 and only eliminate 3, you're still in. If you got hit, then once 2 ships are sunk, then the other team wins. Key rule here as well. So the game's about to begin. They gotta pick where they're going to be planted at. So 432 chooses a boat with 2 seats because he's like, oh, I need the hardest boat. Which, how was that kind of picking the boats? Tell me, we'll get into your boats later, but how was it, being fairly picked?
I think this is a game where there's so much luck involved. There's a bit of strategy, but I would say it's mainly a game of luck. And I think what you see with 432 is he's thinking, I want the small boat, the boat that only has 2 seats in it, because it's the hardest to find, right? On this big grid, a boat of 2 is pretty much invisible. The odds are low of hitting it. But I think you have to also think of the flip side, because every decision has an opposite, or like a peak and a pit, right? And I think the pit of that decision is if you do hit the 2 boat, right? It's a lot easier to sink. You can sink it in 2 hits. Where some of these boats, like the aircraft carrier, has 5 seats in it. Yeah. And so I think every decision you have to weigh, like, do I want this benefit? Like, there's a pro and con. And what you see with Brighton is he picks the boat with 2, and he puts it, in the corner. And then at the last minute, he's asked by Jesse to move it to a different spot. I don't know exactly why that decision was made, but Brighton seems pretty upset because he seemed to have a very good feeling about the original spot that he had planted himself in.
Oh yeah, he was not happy with that. And I wish Jesse was here with us to kind of, dive into that, but it's okay. We'll get her another time. But definitely I was like, ooh, because they're 2 way different people, like she's, I know Jess a little bit. She's in the theater and whatnot, and she's a very sweet, bubbly girl. And Brighton's kind of like, he's athlete, very alpha. And those 2 kind of groups don't really go hand in very often, or you don't see them interact that closely.
The jocks and the theater kids, you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe that's what we're seeing. It's just high school.
That's what we're seeing. Yeah. I feel like that's what I was seeing. I was like, woo, because he was not happy. But
no, but I think you have to remember that these interviews that you're seeing are taking place after the game has finished, not in the moment. And had Brighton moved his ship and there was a different outcome, he might be in an interview saying, I'm so glad Jesse told me to move my boat. Like, it's all very based on like 2020, like hindsight is 2020. I had a teacher who used to say that, and it's so true because you're looking at the past through a very specific lens. And in the moment, who knows what the thoughts were that were going through his head.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. These are taking place after, so you got to put that into account. And in his interview, he says he doesn't feel safe after the fact. So then they say the losing captain and lieutenant, along with the people in the boats who are sunk, lose the game and are eliminated. So if you're on a losing team, but your boat didn't get sunk, you're still in the game. So they didn't emphasize that. I mean, just use your brain a little bit, but that's a key element as well in this, because watching the show, it looks like the team who loses, they're all out. Just watching it as a viewer, that's kind of, it just looks like that, but we know that's not the case. I'm spitting out the details.
And that was a really interesting twist on it, because your odds of survival, if your boat didn't get hit, now were good. You could make it through even if your team loses. And on the flip side, there are teams that won battleships or warships, but people had been eliminated. And it's a little bit awkward. You don't really see it on the show, but like these teams are cheering and so happy. And I'm thinking in my head, wait, there's people on their team that are eliminated. But I guess they were just so elated that they couldn't really people are out there for themselves, right?
Yeah.
And so you're going to be cheering even if someone right beside you is going home. It's just the nature
Yeah.
of the game.
100%. It's very interesting, like little thing that they put in there, which is pretty cool, honestly. I mean, it adds a whole different element to it. I wish they kind of, focus more on like the people who survived on the team that lost, and then the people who are out on the team that won. So it was pretty interesting on that. So we get into the first game. They're starting to miss missiles. 432 wishes he was captain because Jessie has no clue what she's doing. Abood gets hit first in the blue team. I didn't put his number down, unfortunately, but you'll see who hits first.
We're humans. We're not numbers.
Exactly. We're humans. So I'm trying to put people's names and numbers in there. Sometimes they didn't give people, because they gave Abood a little MIV, and some people they didn't, because I just saw their numbers. So that's what I'm getting at. So a MIV, I don't know what it stands for, but it's a private interview. Master interview is where you get put in a room and you're telling the camera and the producers essentially your emotions about what's going on in a specific instance that happens in the past.
Yeah.
Or that might happen in the future.
Called them
confessional, essentially. Yeah, I call them confessionals, but everyone else called them MIVs. So that's what that is, and I revert back to that. Thank you, Tyler. I appreciate you. You need to be my co-host from now on. Check me. But yes, Abu gets hit first. 432 says he says his leader is firing at random spots and they keep on missing. He's getting frustrated.
Can we talk about this?
Go ahead. Let's talk about it.
Firing at random shots. That's the game. That is the game, DeAndre. That is the game.
You're killing me right now.
Cut out your umbrella. Firing at random shots is Battleship. It's random until it's not.
Yeah, that was an interesting statement. I was like, it's Battleship. I mean, what you wanted to do? Like, I mean, you can't this is strategy. I'm picking this number, which some people have strategies on numbers, like C3. Somebody said that. And everyone always puts something on C3, which, but at the end of the day, it's like, it's just the random luck of the draw if you hit somebody's boat or not. Like, I don't think it's much strategy. You can't get mad at somebody for missing. Like, it's not their fault. I saw people blaming their captains. It's not the captain's fault. It's just random luck, it's random numbers. So
it's really all luck. I mean, we talked about in terms of a strategy, like, our team, when we were before the game, I don't know who asked that someone on the opposing team had asked the games producer, are we allowed to leave the ships in the original formation they were when we walked in the room? Meaning they were all just kind of like piled in the bottom left corner. And the producer was like, yes, if you'd like to do that, but that could be your strategy. And it was like, are they going to do that? Is our team going to do that to throw us off? Just clump all the boats together? I mean, they didn't end up doing that, but there are these ideas of like, what if you put all the boats together in a clump? Or what if you put all the boats around the edge? I think there's pros and cons to these ideas because there's no team that is only going to shoot the edges of the board. And like, I think you see B saying this, when people panic, they panic spray the middle of the board. So I think doing an edge strategy, if I went back, I actually might try that just to see like what happens, because nobody did that. And I think it might have been a good strategy.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, I saw Battleship at the store yesterday, so I might have to go back and get it to just test some things out and test some theories, and we'll see. I mean, that's very possible. I mean,
hold on 1 second. Fill some space for 20 seconds.
All right, we're going to fill some space. This man's getting up here while he's gone. Yeah, Battleship's an interesting game. I unfortunately was out before then. I wouldn't have liked it too much just because I wouldn't have been in control. And here he's back with the actual game. He's been practicing.
I have Battleships. After I was eliminated, spoiler alert, well, you've already seen the episode. I went and
We haven't got to that. We haven't got there yet. Come on, coach. We ain't got there yet.
Cut that out. I went and I bought the game Battleship after we played because I'm like, I need to practice this more. Like, and I also need to own a piece of Squid Game history. So here it is. Battleship. Listen to that ASMR for anyone who's listening to the audio version.
90s, the 90s. It's bringing me back. Well, we continue with the first game. So the red sinks their first ship and they celebrate profoundly. So 68, 44, 422, 447, and 452 are eliminated. The 5 boat sinks. Then blue sinks a red ship. 142, 188, 389, 343 are eliminated. It's 1-1. The pressure's getting to them. Then the big moment. C4 gets hit. 4-3-2 gets hit. Oh my gosh, what is happening? The captains freak out and they're crying. It's just madness over there right now. Then 4-3-2 says, look, y'all gotta listen to me from now on. Then he tells him, go G2. G2 hits. Then 4-3-2's hope comes back. It's centered around 4-3-2 right now because that's what the TV's showing us. But this is, all about 4-3-2 right now. Then it's getting down to the nitty gritty. Then G3 is chosen and it hits. It's a 3 boat. So they need one more. So they're not out yet. They're being calm still. And then the last missile hits. Boom! Red team wins. And 2-7-0 and 4-3-2 are eliminated. Oh my gosh, 4-3-2 is salty. And 220 and 3-5-2 are also eliminated. And 4-3-2 is very sad, and that's the end of his journey. He was one of the characters on the show. If you had not been paying close attention or had, been sleeping during the show, 4-3-2 is basically the main character of the show at this point, and it is his exit. So you don't know this at this point, so we'll continue the game because when the players are done, they get to go back in the dorms that win or that have survived, and then the next 2 groups of teams go in there.
As a viewer, though, I will say like 4-3-2 getting eliminated is a tough moment. It's bittersweet because he was bringing a lot of drama. I mean, and for a TV show, like that's entertaining. I mean, is he my favorite human in the world? No, but I don't like bullies, and he comes off as a bully sometimes. So as a player, so excited that 4-3-2 is now gone. As a viewer, kind of upset because Brighton, you make amazing television.
Yeah, no, he definitely, living with the man. It's like, wow, like interesting to see kind of like this aspect of a villain, quote unquote, in like right in front in your space and whatnot, and having to deal with that. But then, as a viewer on the other side, it's like you kind of like want to see that chaos unfold. So, what was your kind of like relationship with 4-3-2, if you had one?
I saw him around the dorm, like doing his push-ups, as you can see in the show. Kind of like it felt like he was showing off. Maybe he just wanted to maintain his physique, preparing for tug of war. I get it. My only interaction with him was really after the Dalgona. I go up to him and I thank him for pick and triangle on behalf of line number 2 because it allowed me to continue in the game. So I was grateful for him being so tough in that moment and winning that, helping us win that. So, but it was definitely, my relationship with him was more observational than it was actually interactional. Is that a word?
Okay. Yeah, no, you're making it words if it's not a word. So we continue, go to the next game. So TJ is the leader of the team and Trey is on his team. The show follows these 2 characters. Why am I missing something?
Wait, I feel like
I skipped something.
I think you skipped how the first game ended, that like Jesse ends up losing with Brighton.
Oh yeah. Sorry. I was like, what am I missing? Yes. So 186, 187, and 4-3-3 are also eliminated in the same game, and Jesse and the other her co-captain,
Lieutenant
Radhika, is eliminated in that as well. It's very sad due to 2 lovely ladies.
2 lovely ladies. Jessie is just like a great human. I think she was an awesome captain. I got to give her credit because that first game, right, watching it on TV is pretty exciting, right? They were neck and neck, right? Each team was 1 shot away from winning. And so to me, she's a fantastic captain and made wonderful decisions, despite what some of the commentary you hear on the show is, because there were other battles that weren't even close at all. We'll see what happens with mine. But I was sad to see her go, sad to see Radhika go. These are awesome people. Sad to see Adrian go. I think Adrian was in the boat with Brighton 4-3-2. Just like, love that man. I love Adrian, funny guy. And so it was sad to see a lot of these really great personalities go in that game.
Yeah, 100%. It was like, dang, you're taking out all the players. So next game is the next game. So TJ's a captain, and 161, friend Lorenzo, is on TJ's team, and he is so tired of the positive TJ's getting. He's like, this man, all his positive affirmations. TJ promised before the game, no one on his team is going home. He said that before the game started, and the game starts. 396 and 264 are captains and lieutenants. Got it right here. And they were in charge of the other team. So before we get into it, we're going to rewind a little bit. So with you being a how did that happen?
So we walk into the game, we're cheering, we're excited, and they tell us that we need to pick a captain. I volunteered to be captain, so did Scott. Scott ends up being chosen. And Scott is an awesome dude. He lives in California where I do, and he owns an escape room. And I love escape rooms. I'm crazy about them in that I've played over 80 escape rooms in my life. And Scott owns an escape room. And we met earlier that day on day 6, and we bonded over this. And so when Scott goes up and they tell him that he now has to pick a lieutenant, I'm just standing there like this silently with my hand up, being kind of humble. Dash is also on our team. And Dash is like, please pick me, Scott, please pick me. And I just remember just standing there silent, like, just be humble, just be humble. Trust that your escape room relationship is going to help you here. And Scott goes, I'm picking Tyler 264. And I was excited to finally have like a leadership moment to show like, I know how to pick random squares. I know how to play battleships. And so Scott and I are the captain and lieutenant in our game against TJ and Deem.
So when you become captain, what was your strategy on putting the pieces in certain spots?
Yes, Scott for our strategy really wanted to throw the other team off with aligning 2 boats perpendicularly. And what that does is it's a strategy that can throw the other team off because they can end up hitting a boat and sinking it, but not actually knowing that they hit another boat as part of it. So it's kind of hard to visualize. But when you sink a ship, they don't tell you what ship sunk. This is a tongue twister. And so you could have sunk a ship that was like the 4, but you hit 5 shots because there's a vertical one right here. And that means that if they did that, they're never going to go back to this spot, these vertical one, because they think like, no, we just hit a boat there. And so it's an interesting strategy. And I was very supportive of Scott in doing that because I've done that playing battleships and it typically is a good strategy.
Okay. So he had the strategy going on. How were you feeling when they kept hitting your boats? It looked like they just hit them right off the bat and just kept going and going and going. What's going through your head?
Yeah, man, I have PTSD, DeAndre, reliving this moment. I felt like I was the lieutenant on the Titanic, and we had hit the iceberg, and we were going down with the ship. It was very clear that this game was not going in my team's favor. What you didn't see is that the game started out with miss after miss after miss. I think our team missed 8 times in a row before we finally hit. And obviously after maybe 4 misses from the other team, they hit one of our boats. And so with so many misses, we knew very early on that the odds of us winning this game were very low. And that was hard because here I am in a leadership position at the front of the room, and everybody in the boats, they felt like sitting ducks. What you have to remember is, as a Squid Game player, the first game and the second game of Red Light, Green Light and Dalgona, these are games that people are winning based on their own actions. It's an individual game. And then you go to game number 3, not only is it a team-based game, but they're like sitting ducks in these boats, not making decisions, and their elimination is potentially completely out of their control. And that was really hard because it puts a lot of pressure on the people making the decisions for what happens to their friends and these other players who have come so far for this journey. And I'm responsible now for their elimination.
Responsible. Dang, man. Oh my gosh. So when does it kind of like, as they hit your boat, you hear the cheering and whatnot. And as the game winds down, it's boom, 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 boom.
Hit after hit after hit.
It's just like, man. And then what's like before the last kind of hit, what's kind of like, how are you feeling at that point?
Yeah,
it's over. Like, what is it?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we the game was pretty silent aside from every time the other team hit. You hear TJ being like, "Let's go, let's go, one more shot, we got this." And the game was so quiet the whole time, and then you just hear him screaming, going, "None of you are going home. I told you none of you." I'm kind of just standing on the other side of this board being like, I know he's right. Like, I'm not going to give in. We're going to keep firing. And what was nice is that when we finally did hit a boat, we were making progress. And so watching it back in the episode, I had no idea that Trey and Leanne were in the boat that we had hit. I think it's really interesting that Trey and Leanne the mother-son, went in the same boat together, because I would think they would want to split up to increase the odds of one making it through if it came to that. I'm curious, DeAndre, what you thought about like the two of them choosing the same boat.
Yeah, I was surprised. I'm like, why? I don't see why with the benefit of picking them in the same boat. I mean, I'm definitely gonna ask them this when they're coming on the podcast. But yeah, if my mom was on there with me, I definitely would have like, you go here, I'm gonna go here. I understand them wanting to be close and like you were going in and out together. That might have been like, if you're not here, I don't want to be here mindset. So that's probably what I think is the only logical reason of why they picked the same boat. But yeah, I mean, if they were out the game, then dang, like who would have took their spot?
Yeah, honestly, like I'm being completely honest, and I told Leanne and Trey this. I didn't realize in the moment that we were one shot away from eliminating Trey and Leanne, and I'm genuinely glad that we did not eliminate them, because first of all, at that point, our team had already lost battleships. Like we knew, because we hadn't sunk a ship and they were about to sink our second and win. And it's like, those are great people. I was close with Trey and Leanne. Trey's bunk was above mine. We talked about Survivor at night, and like Leanne is just a sweetheart. And so I want to see those people continue on. And that's part of the complexity of Squid Game, is that you are sometimes eliminating people that you formed real connections with and had friendships with. And so genuinely, like if I was at that point already going to lose battleships, which is the truth, I'm glad we didn't eliminate Trey and Leanne, because they can continue on now. And it's been really fun seeing how they're doing in the show.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, these are the centerpiece, two of the centerpieces of the show. So it's like the first centerpiece went out already. Now the next two are gone. So it's like, it's a whole new show at this point. Aladdin settings. But so yes, unfortunately, our friend 264 sadly has went to the other side and hopefully living a better life.
Yeah, Scott and I gave our little salutes.
Oh yeah, yeah, that was cool. I was like, that was sad. I was very sad to watch. It was like, like given that, like it was just like, dang, you did do the Titanic. So.
Yeah, I mean, that was a rough battle. I mean, it went as poorly as it could have gone, not sinking a single ship, but it was fun. It was fun. You know what? I would say, it's funny watching it back, because I think like when you don't do well, you say, oh, it was out of my control, it was luck. But if you do well, you're like, I was strategic. And that's just human nature. But I had a fun time playing that game. And even if it led to my elimination, I had such a fun time on Squid Game. Met people that I still keep in contact to this day. We meet up. There's a little crew in California. And man, that experience I wouldn't change it for the world.
Oh man, that's awesome. And I'm glad to, have been able to meet you through the show. I know we didn't really talk in the show. I might have came across you maybe once or twice, but, afterwards, I'm glad we got to, talk a little bit and whatnot, and hopefully we get to kick it soon. Yeah, here we are. Hopefully I get to getting out there soon. So definitely when I'm out there, we're going to 100% link up and play Battleship together.
Yes, absolutely.
But so sadly, our friend Tyler is no longer in the game. And as he said, Trey and Leanne were about to get something, but he didn't. Lorenzo was also on the other team. It's funny. He says he's an atheist, but he is happy to God that he made it through. And Jada was also on the other team as well, which won. So a lot of characters were on the other team, a lot of them. So if you guys won that game, wow, it would have been a completely different show.
Yeah.
So and 301 is so happy TJ was his captain, which is Trey. And TJ's crying in disbelief back in the dorms when they get in there. Next game comes, 18 is captain. She says she plays games for a living. This is B. We get introduced to her. She's from London, England. She is a games industry professional. She picks 19 as her lieutenant. She takes pride in her intelligence, and she has a super high IQ. So I would love to have her as my captain. She's getting the job done. She says people always aim for C3, but she gets C3. And then 57 is the captain on the other team. She says it takes a lot of luck, but also a lot of math and logic. B says this as well. So B sinks the first ship. 438, 435, 267, and 450, and 34 are eliminated. And then they sink the second ship. This game kind of is like quick as well. They go through it pretty quick.
I think B looks very good here. I mean, she's strategic, she's smart, and I gotta say, her comment about C3 and everyone always wanting to target that hit me right here, because you don't see it on the show, but I was dying to hit C3, and I kept saying to Scott, let's go for C3, and he was like, no, I don't think so. But my dad's favorite number was 3, and I was like, C3, that's like 3-3. And she's right. I guess I just fell for like human nature. There's something about C3. I wanted to hit it too.
Hey, man, I need to definitely go to her when I got some strategy things going on and see what her opinions are, because she was 100% right on that. I mean, I'm gonna go back and see if every team put something on C3, like except hers, of course. But
yeah, she didn't, and the team I was against, TJ, did not either. So it's kind of good. Scott told me, no, we're not going for C3.
Okay, damn, bad luck. So they sink the first ship, and then they sink the second ship of 362, 226, and 357. They're all eliminated, and then 57 and 434 also eliminated as captain and lieutenant. B says she has been underestimated, and now is her time. The next game, the final game. Brownie is captain, and 204 is captain on the other team. I did not get Brownie's number, unfortunately. 33 is upset. She can't do anything, which is our friend Figgy. She is in a boat, and she has to, put her fate in other people's hands. So as the game begins, 218 and 414 are eliminated. Ship sunk on the blue team. 33 Figgy, she's stressing. She's like, it's not looking good. Like they're hitting her boat, and it's interesting. So Brownie and Figgy are friends, but they're on opposite teams. And, they kind of briefly, they don't show their relationship up to this point, but as you can see, like Brownie's getting upset because she knows Figgy's on the other team. She's praying, like, please let this not be Figgy. Please let this not be Figgy. And yeah, she soon gets eliminated. Brownie sinks Figgy's ship along with 103, 248, 297, and 35. And I don't think she knew this at the time, but it makes it look like she knew it, which is interesting. How do you feel about that edit right there?
Sorry, she knew what?
So Brownie sunk Figgy's ship, and it looked like on TV that she knew that she sunk Figgy, or she had a feeling that she did. So
right. Yeah, it's hard to know. If Figgy had been vocal and speaking in the game, you could have heard, because we were all in the same room together, just divided by this wall in the middle. It's possible she knew, because you would know who was on the other team. You just didn't know where they were. So yeah, it's pretty emotional in the moment. I think what you're seeing from Brownie is just disappointment as captain that she lost for her team, because it's tough. It's really tough in that moment. You're eliminated, and other people are eliminated because of you, not just on your team, but on the other team as well.
Yeah, big moves. So the Gambu gang is also in this group. They're panicking. This is another, the game gets pretty close. This game is probably the closest out of all the games. 50-50 chance to win. Goes down to the last ship. Rick is there in the ship. He says, pick 8, pick 8, pick 8. And everyone else on the team says pick 5. Even the captain's like, oh, my daughter's favorite, or something about family members' favorite thing, number 5 or something like that.
He had 18 grandchildren.
Yeah, 18. But yeah, Rick has 18 grandchildren, and that's why he said 8. And the other guy's like, oh, I have 5 kids, or something wrong with the number 5. And everyone's saying 5, and everyone is against Rick in this moment. And Rick's like, pick 8, pick 8. And then Steven gives him like, look, let him pick the number. And they're all stressing. He's like, I should pick 5, but I don't know. And eventually they go with 8, Dr. Rick's choice, and boom, his team wins. It's epic. It's like out of a storybook. I mean, you couldn't write something
dramatic. This was good television. I was having fun watching it, even though I knew what had happened. Watching it back, after hearing about it, was spectacular. And I think it's nice that Rick was given the choice, because Rick was the one with the most at stake for that decision. right? If Rick was wrong, Rick was eliminated. If Rick was right, the whole team won. And so to go with 8 because it was such a special number for him was awesome to see that paid off for him. And I'm wondering, like, Rick told us that he has a full leg tattoo of the 18 grandchildren. I'm like, does he have the other leg with his 800 bees on them? And has he named each bee? I would love. We need a tattoo reveal, is what I want to say. I feel like we
should
were
get that.
robbed of seeing the Rick's tattoo, but maybe it comes in episode 4 or 5.
Hey, we'll see. We'll see. You got to stay tuned in the show now. Rick might pull it on out.
Rick just bears his leg.
Exactly. Look now. I mean, he's surviving on the last hair of his chinny chin chin at this point. And so his team wins, and the people who have sunk is 194, 367, and 107. 107 is Teo, the one who got first place in red light, green light, and he finished the umbrella. And yeah, that's Teo. They didn't give him much shine in the show, surprisingly. But he was definitely somebody everybody who knew who he was and was a very quote unquote powerful player. But yeah, he finished the first game first and in the hardest shape. So
that was a lot of big personalities gone in Warships. And when people say Squid Game is rigged, I was like, you think it's rigged when they're eliminating the biggest personalities? Like, no one would do that if they had a choice. Like, there is so much luck involved, so much randomness, and that's the beauty of the show. That's what makes it interesting. And unfortunately, a lot of big personalities got eliminated in game number 3. I think that, Daryl, for example, her number was 273. She was one of the
one of the captains. One of the captains. I was about to get 258 and 273 got eliminated as well.
Right, and she was my closest ally in the game, and so that was tough to see as well. Like, these are, even though you don't see them all on television speaking or having interviews, the people in that room were just spectacular, the coolest people you ever meet. And so these eliminations hurt, but we had a fun night out in London. I'll just say that, all the Battleships people together that night, great memories.
Good, excellent. Well, guys, got to go out on a high note, morally. So the game is over. 301 Trey is very sad. Figgy is gone. They formed a little friendship before that, and now it goes from 118 to 73 people. So it's getting down to double digits. Leanne is still grateful to be there. The guards then they bring a machine into the dorms. The guards say before the next game there will be 2 tests. These tests will happen in front of the entire dorm, and they say the first test is everyone is voting to eliminate 3 players, and then the cliffhanger happens. And that is episode 3. Wow.
What a cliffhanger.
Wow. Cliffhangers is the theme of the season, I see. We're not just going to just finish the game and go. In the season, in the episode, we're just going to keep on cliffhanging.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I was on.
Real. Shit got real after Battleships. Like, you really see in just those final moments, like, oh, this just turned into a strategy game and we're going to have to vote people out. Like, I feel like there's a very big shift in tone coming out of Battleships of, like, this game just got so real and so cutthroat, and it's going to be really fun to see what ends up happening with this game.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, who would have ever thought us going in there, we're going to have to vote people out? It wasn't my thought. I wasn't thinking of voting people out. I was kind of just, okay, we're going to do the games and that's it. Honestly, I didn't think about anything extra. I mean, I knew they were going to have to add something. I kept saying that, like, they're going to add something. But I couldn't put my finger quite on it, what it could possibly be with this many people. So,
yeah.
So Tyler, how you feeling after, seeing the episode or not even seeing the episode? How are you feeling after, you're back in the States, you leave the filming and whatnot. How are you feeling when you get home?
I'm just grateful. I'm full of gratitude. It's Thanksgiving week right now, and I'm still feeling the gratitude. I went on Squid Game because I wanted to challenge myself. I'm, at a good place in my career. I have friends that I love, good family, and life is good. And I just want that extra challenge. And so I applied and I got on, and I truly did get what I was looking for, which was to learn about myself, to grow. And I ended up pushing myself to do things that I never thought were possible. Red light, green light, for example, the first few, I would say in the first 20 minutes of that game, because like I said, it went for 7 hours. My internal dialogue was, I don't want to do this. I don't have to do this. And I won't do this. It's not worth it, because it was so painful and cold in there. And by the end of that game, at maybe hour like 5 mark, I noticed that my mental, my internal monologue had shifted, and it was, I will do this. I can do this. I want to do this. And that mental shift, pushing myself to get across that line, past that doll and into the dorms, was the best feeling ever. And it stays with me to this day. It was such a big high, and I pushed myself and I learned about myself. And I think that's priceless. And the friends I made the whole thing worth it. So even though I got out, in episode 3 out of 10, it was such a fun experience. And like I said, I wouldn't change it for the world. I loved it.
Oh, that's excellent, man. I mean, that's the gold right there. You preaching too much right now, man.
Preaching. I'm preaching too much.
You ain't preaching. You never can hear enough of that. I love that, man. And definitely there needs to be more people like you in the world with that kind of perspective and thinking, the positive outcome of things rather than, oh, I didn't win or anything like that, So
yeah, I mean, the odds of winning are so low. I mean, there were 81,000 people who applied to this show. That's what one of the producers said in an interview. So even just getting cast was a feat in and of itself. And I'm proud of that. And then I'm proud of making it to the top 118. In my life, I love escape rooms and I love immersive theater. And so to be able to be in a game like this, where it's essentially like a 24/7 escape room, that you're in this environment surrounded, like you never left it. Like even going to the bathrooms or the showers, like you're in game, the hallways are themed. Like those little details were just phenomenal and exciting for me as a fan to experience, and then to live it. Like, wow, like you can't buy an experience like that. So I loved every minute of it. The starving, I didn't care, because I was having fun.
Hey, okay, well, put this man on Survivor, coach. What? Give him the phone call. Put this man on Survivor. I'm ready to see him go at it. I'm ready to see him meet Jeff Probst, and I'm ready to see him win that game, because this man deserves it right here. Well, Tyler, I really appreciate you coming through. You have no idea how honored it was to have you on the podcast, going through episode 3 with me. Y'all got to make sure to come through for episode 4. It's coming soon. And yeah, we'll see kind of what happens once the players got to do these tests. We're going to see what's going to happen. But till next time, y'all, I appreciate you, Tyler, for coming through. Thank you so much. And till next time, y'all.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.